Christian parenting.
Right about now, you're probably finding yourself in one of two camps. You're either in Camp A and you're saying, wow, this homeschool year has flown by. Here we are, towards the end of it. Where did the time go? Or you might be saying maybe those exact words, but in a different tone. You might be saying, wow, this year, can it not end soon enough? And some years you might say, you might be in Camp A, and some years you might be in Camp B, and it's okay. There's just different seasons, but you're saying either way to yourself, here we are towards the end of April. Now, I don't know what your homeschool year looks like. I don't know what your first day is, your last day is, but about now, there are moms that are finishing up. I find that those that live in a warmer climate, or here in the United States, maybe you live further down south and spring hits a little bit sooner, you guys tend to finish up the homeschool year sooner than those of us who are further up north because, yeah, it's not that warm yet. And even though we might get touches of spring, we're okay doing homeschool through at least the month of May. Some of you like to do year round, some like to go into June. It is completely up to you what you want to do. But today, no matter where you find yourself, maybe in the last couple of days, last couple of weeks, or maybe even the last couple of months that you still have left, I don't want you to flake out. I want you to finish this homeschool year strong. You had a good head on your shoulders when you started in the fall, or maybe end of the summer, whenever your start date is. Let's keep a good head on our shoulders and let's finish well and strong so that you can look back and say, that was a really good year. Doesn't mean there weren't ups and downs and there weren't hard days, but you can look back and just say, I'm so glad that I didn't flake out and that I kept going and we made some adjustments. We're going to talk about that and how to do that, but still to finish strong. But just, I want you to look back at the end of this homeschool year and say, yeah, we did it and we did a good job. Welcome to episode 457 of Little by Little Homeschool, and I am your host, Leigh Nguyen. Thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. Whether you are in your first year, or your 10th year, 20th year, or maybe you are one of those moms that is listening because you are thinking about homeschool, I am so glad that you are here. On this podcast, we talk about all kinds of things when it comes to homeschool, but also Christian motherhood, because homeschool is just an extension of our parenthood, of our motherhood, and our desire to impart a biblical worldview on our children. Society and culture at large will separate out education and parenting, but no, in homeschool, it is home education. We are parenting and we are guiding the whole child. So let's get into today's episode. Are you searching for the perfect gifts to celebrate the special moms, dads, and grads in your life at this season? We are thrilled to bring back the Christian Parenting Moms, Dads, and Grads Gift Guide. And this year's edition is the best one yet. Whether you're honoring a loving mom, a devoted dad, or an inspiring graduate, we've got you covered with meaningful gifts they'll truly love. From Bibles and study tools to encouraging books, you're guaranteed to find something special for everyone on your gift list this spring. Visit christianparenting.org/gifts to explore the 2026 Moms, Dads, and Grads Gift Guide today. The link will be for you in the show notes. Before I get into the couple of main points that I want to help you to finish really well and strong this year, I want to start off and say what I do not mean when I say, don't flake out, finish this homeschool year strong. This is what I do not mean. I do not mean that you have to finish every page and every lesson of every single subject that you're doing. I'm not even saying that even from one subject that you have to finish every page and every lesson. When I learned this after, I guess maybe like year 2 or so of homeschool, it just gave me so much more freedom when I realized that even in the public school, they're not finishing all of the math lessons. So I was like, okay, it kind of took a weight off my shoulder because unfortunately we tend to look there. We tend to outsource what we should be doing to what the public school is doing with children of similar ages. But it just made me feel better. Like, okay, the homeschool regulations aren't going to be requiring this because the public school regulations are not even requiring this of the education of the kids. Now, is there a difference between spending the entire year and only doing 10 lessons of the math and getting to lesson 150, yeah, there is a vast difference in that. So if you're at lesson 10, I'm going to hope that maybe it's because your child finished up maybe the level that they were at and you just started with the next level because you're like, well, I don't want to stop doing math. Hopefully, it's not that you're only on lesson 10 after the entire year, and there are extenuating circumstances for why that could have happened. But if the circumstances are because you didn't feel like doing it, then it's not really a good enough excuse. I'm sorry to tell you that. But I am not saying, when I say to finish this year strong, I am not saying that strong means because you finished every page and every lesson. So take a weight off your shoulders there. I also do not mean that you have to start some type of in-depth lessons or start a unit study or start anything that maybe is just too much to do, that requires more time than you have left. Now, we're not talking about math. That's something different. So say I actually recently was talking to a friend, and maybe she'll listen to this episode and hear it. She's like, we never quite got to that Constitution study that I wanted to do. And I was like, well, don't start it now. She's like, oh yeah, we're not going to start it now. We're just going to put it aside. We didn't take it off the shelf to do it. We're just going to leave it on the shelf and we're going to do it next year because it is much more of an in-depth study. So I am not meaning that you have to start something in-depth. You're like, oh, we didn't do enough. Let me start some really in-depth study. If you only have 4 weeks to go and you want to open up maybe a tiny little can of worms, find a unit study that you guys can do as a family and get done in that amount of time. But you don't have to. I'm not saying you have to. Just you have to go with what is your gut, what is your intuition, evaluating what you've done this year, and is there something that you just didn't quite get to? That is different than saying, okay, in order to start strong, I have to do some program that is built out for maybe some type of 8-week study, and we're going to get it done in 4 weeks. Don't do that to yourself. Now, what I do mean is this. I have 5 very hopefully simple things just to help encourage you to finish strong. What I do mean is to give the last few weeks or months that you have left your best effort. There can be many excuses. I could come up with an excuse all the time. I remember, this is a little embarrassing because I think back now, prior to kids, I'm like, what did I do with my time? I did not spend it well. I wasted a lot of time. But I was late for work all the time. I was chronically late. And every time, this is like post-college. Actually, we were married. And every time I started to realize, I'm like, you have an excuse for being late every single time. And they were kind of sort of valid excuses. I just remember the one that just threw me over the edge to be like, okay, you have got to get your act together here and you have to maybe get up earlier. That might be the reason. But my closet system fell apart and I don't know if I felt like I had to fix it before I went to work or I couldn't find my clothing. I don't know. But I remember thinking like, okay, that's my excuse for today. I'm like, this is going to sound extreme. Yesterday, there was a different excuse. The day before, there was another excuse. And I realized then that I was just coming up with excuses for maybe just my laziness or my inability to manage my time well. So give the last few weeks or your last few months your best effort. Now, that best effort, you get to decide what that looks like, but you know what your best effort is. Deep down, you know what that looks like. And if you're saying, I don't know if I'm giving it my best effort, just stop and really think about it. And you'll be able to tell. You know if it is or not, or if you're just coming up with an excuse for why we can't do this today, why we can't do that the other day. Think about my excuses that I came up for being late every day. And we can come up with excuses for why not to do something all the time. I can be the queen of procrastinators, and I'll admit that. No, do it now. Do the hard things now. So give it your best effort. Even the hard subjects, even the ones that you're like, I'm so done. I don't want to do another math lesson. But you have maybe a second, third, fourth grader. And right now you're laying such a strong foundation. Or maybe they really want the math lesson. There are kids out there who really want the math lesson. Do the hard thing. Do the math lesson today. Do the math lesson tomorrow. Do the math lesson the next day and finish well. Give it your best effort. Number 2, especially for your content subjects. And if you're unsure what content versus skill subjects are, I'll drop a link in the show notes for an episode that goes more in depth about that. But especially for your content subjects, if Even if you're like, I am so over this, or it is, let's just give an example. Maybe it's your geography. You're like, I'm so over this, or I didn't realize that this was going to be so worksheet heavy. I didn't realize it was just going to be such memorization. The kids are bored, or we're stressed out about it. This is just adding something more, and it's just too much. If for some reason it is not giving you life right now, especially for those content subjects, not necessarily the math and the language arts, the skill subjects, then what if you're just done with it? And what if you use that time, that energy, and that best effort that we just talked about, and you pour it into the subjects and the curriculum and the resources and maybe the outings and the field trips and the nature walks? What if you pour into the things that are giving you guys life, and just say, you know what? I want to finish strong. We gave this geography our best effort, but we're done with it right now, and put it aside. And then pour your time and effort into the rest of your homeschool. Now, you're looking at the calendar, and hopefully you have maybe an end date. You've got some fun things planned. I do have an episode about that, about last day and things you can celebrate and that kind of stuff, so you can listen to that one as well. But if you still have maybe curriculum or resources or video series or books or whatever it is that still need to be finished or that you want to finish, remember, this is not school. This is home education. This is a way of life. You can carry that over into the fall. So let's say, for example, maybe your history. You are going through a book and you're about 2/3 of the way through. Well, you're like, well, so say it's a series, say it's like a 4-book series, and this is book 2. Well, if you don't get all the way through, suddenly if you start book 3 next homeschool year, the kids are like, wait a minute, what happened to that 200 years there? We're kind of missing a gap. It's okay to say, this is great. This is how far we got in it this year. We're going to put a bookmark in, and this is where we're going to start next fall with our history. And that is a perfectly fine and rational point of view. That is great to actually do. Instead of missing that time, or you're just saying, you know what, we're all just kind of a little bit burned out. I would rather pour some more time and effort into our skill subjects, into our math and our language arts. We're going to put a bookmark in our history, and we're just going to pick up where we left off when we start again in August or September or October. Now, there might be some subjects, especially math, if you have not finished it. Now, the math that we did was a spiral method, and so it would continue to remind the kids of what they had done. It was constantly, there was review. And I found that the last probably 20 or so lessons, I would say, I mean, there's a lot of review in there, but it started to introduce some new math, we'll say, not new math, Common Core or anything like that, but it just started introducing some new topics, and then they just kind of stopped. But I found that the next one actually started off with reintroducing those. So they were just introducing some concepts so that when the next homeschool year started, it wasn't brand new and fresh. You might say, you know what, it's okay. They're going to get it next year. It's okay if we don't do that introduction. But I would very much emphasize on doing the review, and maybe possibly doing that lightly over the summer. You might say, okay, we have enough to do still through our math that it would be good for me to keep this solid and fresh in my children's minds. And so we're going to do one lesson a week, or we're just going to have them do review. I opted not to do any new lessons, introduce any new concepts, because we got far enough in our math every year that just the review was enough. And I found that there wasn't a loss of the concepts. There wasn't like a bewildered look on their face. And I'm like, how come you don't remember your multiplication table? And that frustration I would have. Once they had initially learned that, I was like, I don't want them to lose this. And so we would do a review. Sometimes in some seasons and some summers, it was maybe every day for just like 10, 15 minutes, just independent work for them just to work on a math worksheet. Maybe there was 10 problems. Other seasons, it was maybe a couple of days a week. And I found that was very important to helping them to retain those concepts and for us not to start off behind. And sometimes in their math, then the first 10 lessons was completely review. I was like, we don't need to do these because you've been reviewing all summer. So the third point was if you still have things to finish, remember that this isn't school. You can carry some of that over to the summer if you choose, or you can put it on hold, put a bookmark in it, and carry it over into the fall. Now, another way to finish strong, so number 4, would be maybe to switch out some of that curriculum, or maybe that history, you just say, okay, I've done a lot of reading this year. We're just going to put a bookmark on it. We're going to put it aside, and I'm going to switch out, and we're going to do more hands-on activities. And we're going to maybe do more arts and crafts, or stuff outside, or nature stuff, or maybe even field trips. This is a good time of the year. It's not crowded if you want to maybe go to a historical site. It's not busy maybe at different museums or outdoor parks because schools are still in session. So this is a good time, and the weather's typically decent for you to go ahead and do some of those field trips that maybe you have put on hold, or just sometimes you can say, you know what, I'd like to break it up. And maybe you've been thinking about doing field trips and you just didn't know how to incorporate them. Maybe here in your last couple of weeks, you say, you know what, we're going to do one field trip a week. And it doesn't have to be anything extravagant. Maybe look around at your town, look around at towns that are around you, maybe look at a local city, just something you can do on a day trip and see what are some things that we can go and explore just within maybe 10, 15, 30, 45 minutes or so within our home, and go and do that for the day. That is still finishing strong. Just doing bookwork doesn't mean that you are finishing strong. There can be a combination. It doesn't mean necessarily that because you're doing some field trips that you're wimping out. Absolutely not. I remember so many of the field trips that my kids went on and taking pictures, and they remember a lot too. And it just was really good for our relationships and just a lot of core memories from those. And number 5, this one right here is key to finishing your homeschool year strong, is that you as the homeschool mom need to keep a positive attitude about pushing through to reach the goals that you feel are important to reach. Hopefully you set some goals. Hopefully you have a vision for your homeschool, first of all. And hopefully maybe you have set some goals and you have some things that you want to accomplish, and you might be just right there on the edge of accomplishing that. Maybe one of your goals was to do 10 read alouds, and you are at just cracking on the spine on book number 9. And you might say, we're going to finish strong. We are going to get those 10 in. I'm going to read book 9 and we're going to read book 10. But it's also okay to say, we're not going to. But maybe that's an important goal for you. Maybe you started off the year not ever doing a read aloud. And so it's important for you to say, you know what? I'm going to read 10 read aloud books to them every homeschool year. And on this very first homeschool year, congratulations on doing that, on starting and doing that and saying, no, I'm going to reach my goal. So decide what are the important goals. Maybe some of those goals have had to move a little bit. You've had to move them back. Or you might say, you know what, especially I was just saying about putting the bookmark in the history, kind of the same way. You might say, we need to just kind of put a bookmark and a pause on this goal, and we'll start it again in the fall. And you might find that you reach that goal within a couple of weeks or a month or a couple of months from starting the homeschool year. It might not even take you the entire homeschool year in order to reach that goal. But you have to maintain a positive attitude about pushing through with some of those hard things or those goals that you feel that is important for you to reach, the ones that you have set hopefully from the beginning of the homeschool year, or you did a mid-year evaluation after Christmas in January and you have set some new goals. And now is the time to kind of push through, if it's appropriate, and to reach those goals. Or maybe you have never set any goals, or you're not quite sure, what does that look like? Is it really feasible? Is it something that is practical? Is it something that I really should be doing? Well, the goals are they're like a tier below your vision. And if you haven't set a vision for your homeschool, it's really hard to set goals. And there really should be some time that we sit down and we evaluate and we just really look at each of our kids and say, what does this one need? And what does that one need? And what are we really trying to accomplish with the homeschool? What are the important things for us to do? And this is a good time of the year to go ahead and get started in your homeschool blueprint, because guess what? It'll help you to decide what is the curriculum you're going to be using for next homeschool year, and being able to get those and purchased, and then you can put them away, put them aside, do the things you need to over the summer, and then you can crack open those fresh spines and log into those resources and whatever it is that you choose come the fall. But you can also take your time through the summer and go through your homeschool blueprint. There is no rush to have your curriculum all chosen and all picked out before the summer, unless that's your personality and that's going to make you relax a little bit and enjoy your summer a little bit more. But you can get more information about your homeschool blueprint at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/ blueprint. That link will be for you in the show notes, as well as some other episodes that will go well with this one, as well as that resource for the moms, dads, and grads. All of that is in the show notes for you.